Welcome to Lost Relation Chronicles. I can still remember the exact moment I met Doris Carter. 3 years ago, it's burned into my memory, like it happened just yesterday. My life was a mess. Back then, my apartment had practically turned into a swamp. Thanks to the guy upstairs who absent-mindedly left his bathtub running water poured through my ceiling, drenching everything I owned with nowhere else to go, I ended up crashing at my best friend Russell's place while the repairs dragged on. And that's where she walked into my world. Doris Russell, younger sister. I was slumped on his lumpy couch, sipping a cheap beer and feeling sorry for myself when she breezed through the door. She was stunning. Long, dark hair, striking green eyes that sparkled, with mischief and a confident smile that hit me like a punch to the chest. Doris didn't just enter a room she owned. You must be the flood victim. She teased, her voice warm and playful. Despite my mood, I laughed. She sat down next to me closer than necessary and started asking about my ruined apartment, my job, my life. She genuinely cared, and damn it felt good for the first time in weeks. I didn't feel like some unlucky guy with a soaked couch and a wrecked ceiling. I felt like the only person in the world worth talking to. We clicked instantly. Within a week, we were texting nonstop, and by the end of the month, we were officially dating. Doris had this magnetic pull, a natural charm that made people gravitate toward her at parties. She was always at the center of attention, laughing, telling stories, her hands moving animatedly as she spoke. Guys hovered, offering her drinks, while girls clung to her every word. I'd watch from the sidelines. Proud she was mine, but also uneasy? She's just friendly. I told myself she loves the attention, but at the end of the day, she's with me. From the outside, we looked perfect. The steady guy with a solid job and the dazzling woman who lit up every room. I'd take her out to dinner, hold her hand, and feel like I'd won something rare and precious. She'd lean in close, whisper something funny, and I'd think this is what people dream about. But even back then, there was a tiny voice in the back of my mind. Quiet, but persistent. Wondering why she always needed every eye on her, I ignored it. Love makes you stupid like that. The first few months were a whirlwind. Once my apartment was finally repaired, Doris would show up with takeout and a bottle of wine, and we'd stay up, talking for hours. She had this effortless charm, this way of making me feel like I was the center of her universe, and for a while I believed I was. Looking back now, I can see that not everything was as real as I wanted to believe. Doris would flirt with waiters right in front of me, brushing off my frown with a laugh. "Relax, babe. It's just fun," she'd say. And I'd let it go. She'd cancel plans at the last minute, leaving me waiting. But then she'd flash that irresistible smile, and I'd forgive her. Instantly, I told myself it was fine. She was lively, spontaneous, the opposite of predictable old me. I thought I liked that about her at least. I convinced myself I did. People always told me how lucky I was. Doris is one of the kind, they'd say, and I'd nod, grinning, because yeah, she was. But the thing about Doris's magnetic pull, it wasn't just for me, it was for everyone. And deep down, I think I knew that from the very beginning. Some nights I'd lie awake, listening to her breathe beside me, wondering if I was enough for someone like her. She was always chasing something. Attention, excitement. The next big moment. And I was just me. Steady, reliable. The guy who paid his bills on time and didn't make waves. But then she'd roll over, drape an arm across my chest, and I'd shove those doubts away. She chose me. I told myself, out of everyone, she's here with me, and for a while, that was enough. 3 years ago, when we met, I thought I'd found the woman I'd spend my life with. I thought I knew her. Her laugh, her quirks, the way her eyes lit up when she talked about her dreams. But now, looking back, I realized I didn't know her at all. I only saw what I wanted to see, and that was my first mistake. The signs were always there, staring me in the face, but was too caught up indoors to care from the very beginning. She had a way of treating my time like it didn't matter, like I was just some guy waiting around for her to show up whenever she felt like it. Take our first real date. I remember sitting In this little Italian restaurant, the one with the red checkered tablecloths, nervously checking my watch every 5 minutes, I had arrived early, excited, wearing a shirt I had ironed just for her. She was supposed to meet me at 6:30 by 7. There was still no sign of her. I texted nothing. I called no answer. Finally, at 7:20, she strolled in, her hair a mess, like she had just rolled out of bed, smiling like it was no big deal. "Sorry, babe, got caught up with Sabrina," she said, sliding into the seat. Across from me, I wanted to be mad. I should have been. But then she reached over, squeezed my hand, and started talking about her day like nothing was wrong, and just like that I let it slide. Love is about compromise, I told myself, sipping my water and nodding along. But it wasn't just that. One time she was late for everything, dinners, movies, even my birthday party once, and every time I'd sit there waiting, feeling like an idiot. And every time I forgave her because I didn't want to lose her. Then there was her job situation. Something that should have been a giant red flag waving right in front of me. Doris worked in marketing. At least she'd land a job, all excited about the creative energy or whatever, but it never lasted. 3 months here, for months there. And then she'd be out. She'd come home, fuming, pacing around our apartment, ranting about how her boss was a total jerk who didn't get her vision, or she'd quit claiming the job, didn't appreciate her talent. I'd sit on the couch, watching her toss her hair, like she was above it all. "They're all idiots." She'd say. I'd nod. Try to calm her down, maybe suggest that next time she should stick it out a little longer. "You don't understand." She'd snap, and I'd back off. Once she got fired for missing a major deadline, she blamed it on her team, insisting they had sabotaged her. I wanted to ask how that even made sense, but I didn't. I just paid the rent that month when her half didn't show up. Red flag, definitely. Did I ignore it? You bet I did. But the worst part wasn't her job hopping or the way she treated work like a revolving door. It was how she talked about people. Everyone, all the time. She'd send me these long text rants about her life, and half of them were just her tearing someone apart behind their back. Sabrina, her so-called best friend and insecure loser who's jealous of me. She'd type her words cutting even through a screen, her parents lazy nobodies who never made anything of themselves. She'd laugh like it was a joke. Her old bosses, her coworkers, even complete strangers. She had something sharp to say about all of them. I'd read those messages late at night, my phone glowing in the dark, feeling this twist in my gut. She's just venting. I told myself, scrolling past the venom. But deep down I knew it wasn't normal. I saw it firsthand too. One day she'd be hugging Sabrina like they were sisters, smiling at her, like she meant the world to her. The next, she'd be trashing her to me, tearing her down without hesitation. It was like she had two sides. One she showed the world, and one that slipped out when she thought no one important was listening. I should have realized then, if she spoke about them like that, what were the chances she wasn't saying the same things about me when I wasn't around? That thought hit me sometimes late at night, but I pushed it away. She loves me. I told myself she wouldn't do that to me. I was blind, wasn't I? All the little clues, the way she flaked on me, the way she couldn't hold down a job, the way she cut people down, like it was nothing. They were screaming at me to wake up, but I didn't. I just sat there, watching her laugh at her own stories, her eyes bright with that wild energy, and told myself I was lucky to have someone so alive, so bold, even if she made me feel small sometimes. So I compromised. I waited, I listened. Because that's what you do when you love someone, right? You bend a little, you make excuses, you tell yourself it's fine even when it's not. Looking back, now I can see it all so clearly. Every missed date, every lost job, every cruel word she threw around like confetti. The signs were there from day one. I just didn't want to see them by our second year together. I started noticing just how much Doris's lifestyle was draining my wallet. And honestly, that was on me. I let it happen. She had expensive tastes. Stuff I'd never even thought about before. Designer bags with names I couldn't pronounce, dinners at restaurants where the menu didn't even list prices, last-minute weekend trips to places with white sand and crystal clear water. At first was exciting. She pulled me into her world, flashy fun, like we were living some high-end dream. And for a while I felt like I was part of something bigger. Then the bills started piling up and I realized I was the one paying them. I had a steady job, nothing glamorous. Just a desk gig that covered rent and kept the lights on. Doris, on the other hand, treated money like it was air, something that came and went without a second thought. She'd blow whatever she made on clothes nights out, things she had to have, and then turn to me with those big green eyes. "Babe, can you cover this one? I'll get you back," and I always said yes because I was the responsible one, the guy who made sure things didn't fall apart. So I picked up the slack. I told myself it was temporary, that she'd figure things out eventually. She never did. Then came the car situation. And that's when I really should have put my foot down. Doris had this dream, she talked about it all the time, owning a Mercedes-Benz C-Class. She'd show me pictures on her phone, her voice getting all dreamy as she traced the sleek silver body with her finger. "It's not just a car." She'd say it's a statement, her old beater, a rusty sedan that rattled and coughed every time she started it. Finally gave out one rainy afternoon. She called me at work practically in tears. "It's dead, babe. I'm stranded. What am I supposed to do?" I told her we'd figure something out, maybe get something used but reliable, but Doris had already made up her mind. Next thing I knew, we were at the dealership. She was practically bouncing, running her fingers over the hood of a shiny new Mercedes. "This is it," she said, grinning at me. "This is the one I looked at the price tag. It was way more than she could ever afford, and honestly, way more than I wanted to deal with, but she kept going. I need this, babe. It'll make me feel good about myself. You want me to be happy, right?" She leaned into me, her voice soft, her eyes pleading, and I caved. We worked out a loan, but with her credit shot from years of missed payments and impulse spending. Well, guess whose name it went under, so I co-signed the loan. Worse, I started helping with the monthly payments because, according to Doris, her new job wasn't quite covering it yet. "Once I land something stable, I'll pay you back," she promised, sitting across from me at our tiny kitchen table, hands wrapped around a coffee mug. She looked so serious, and I believed her. I wanted to believe her. I nod and say, "Okay, no rush." Even though my bank account was already feeling the squeeze, rent, groceries, my own car, now hers too. Some nights I'd stay up late staring at my laptop, shifting numbers around, trying to make it work. She'd be asleep in the next room. Not a care in the world. Well, I wondered how long I could keep this up. It wasn't just about the money. It was the way she acted, like this was normal, like I owed her this life she couldn't afford. She'd come home with some brand new handbag. Sleek leather, probably more expensive than my rent, and I'd ask, "How'd you swing that?" She'd just laugh, twirl it in her hands, and say, "Don't worry about it, babe. It's an investment." An investment in what? I never got a straight answer, but I'd smile, kiss her forehead, and let it go, because arguing about it felt harder than just dealing with it. So I started cutting corners. No more lunches out with the guys from work, just a sandwich from home. No new clothes, even when my shoes were falling apart. Meanwhile, Doris was posting pictures online, posing with that Mercedes, sipping cocktails on rooftop bars, looking like she had it all together. People would comment goals or living the dream, and I'd feel this strange mix of pride and panic. Pride, because she was mine; panic, because I was drowning trying to hold her up. I told myself it was love, that this was just what you did for someone you cared about, but every time I swiped my card for her, every time I said yes when I wanted to say no, a little piece of me slipped away. She promised she'd pay me back. I clung to that, like a lifeline. 2 years in, I was still waiting. By our 3rd anniversary, I was desperate for things to feel right again, to remind myself that all the sacrifices were worth it. I wanted to make it special for Doris. She always said I wasn't romantic enough, so I planned for weeks trying to prove her wrong. Lura, the fancy restaurant she'd been dying to try, white tablecloths, dim lighting, the kind of place that charged you just to breathe the air. I made the reservation a month in advance, saved extra from my paycheck to cover it, even got a fresh haircut the day before I put on that dark blue suit, the one she once said made me look dangerously handsome. I checked myself in the mirror and actually felt pretty good about it by 7 Mos p.m. sharp. I was at the restaurant, right on time. My stomach flipped with a mix of nerves and excitement as the host led me to our table, a cozy little spot by the window with a perfect view of the city lights. I sat down, picturing Doris walking in, smiling at me the way she used to. I couldn't wait to see her face when she realized how much effort I had put into this night by 7:30. She still wasn't there. I pulled out my phone and sent a quick text, "Hey, you on your way?" Then I set it face down. On the table, no big deal. I told myself she was always late. I sipped my water, watching other couples laugh, clink their glasses, and enjoy their night. She'd be here soon. She had to be. The waiter stopped by and asked if I wanted to order while. I waited. "Not yet," I said, forcing a smile. "Sheck be here any minute, but 800p. Mitch came and went. Still nothing. I called her straight to voicemail. "Hey, it's Doris. Leave a message?" I hung up, my chest tightening. I stared at the empty chair across from me, the candle flickering between us, and felt a sinking feeling I couldn't shake. I should have left. Grabbed my coat, walked out, and saved myself the humiliation, but I didn't. I stayed like a fool who couldn't admit the night was already falling apart by 9 p.m. The waitstaff had started giving me those looks, you know. The ones, soft eyes, quiet pity. Like I was some abandoned puppy. Someone refilled my water without me asking, and I mumbled a thanks. My face burning. I kept checking my phone every few minutes, telling myself she'd have a good excuse. Maybe her car broke down again. Maybe she got stuck in traffic. I told myself I'd wait just a little longer, just in case. The restaurant buzzed around me. People eating, talking, living, while I sat, frozen, holding onto a dumb hope I should have let go of then at 10 p.m. The door swung open. There she was finally, but she wasn't alone. 3 of her friends trailed in behind her, loud and giggling. Their faces flushed like they'd already been drinking. Somewhere else she spotted me, waved like it was nothing, and strolled over with them. "And hey babe," she said, dropping into the chair across from me. Like she hadn't just made me wait 3 hours. Her friends, some guy named Noah, a girl with pink hair, and another I didn't recognize, pulled up extra chairs, crowding our table like this was their night. Not ours, they were. Tipsy, laughing too loud, completely oblivious to the way my stomach had just dropped. I swallowed, my mouth dry, trying to figure out what to say. "You're late," I managed. She just shrugged. "Yeah, we hit a bar?" First lost track of time. You know how it is, I didn't. I'd been sitting here alone, waiting while she was out partying without so much as a text before I could even respond. She leaned back in her chair, smirking, and said loud enough for half the restaurant to hear, "See, told you he'd still be here like a pathetic little puppy." Her friends burst out laughing. Noah, the smug guy with the stupid earring, grinned at me and said, "Damn, she wasn't kidding. You're trained real good." The girl with pink hair snorted into her hand, and the other one cackled like it was the funniest thing she'd ever heard. I just sat there silent, my hands clenched under the table. I could feel every eye in the restaurant turning toward us. Doris laughed too, tossing her hair like she had just scored some kind of victory. I looked at her, the woman I had spent 3 years loving, the woman I had dressed up for, waited for, and finally saw something I hadn't let myself see before. She wasn't just late. She wasn't just careless. She was humiliating me right there in front of everyone, and she didn't even care. The night I had built up in my head, the one I had been looking forward to, was gone, shattered by her words, and all I could do was sit there, the pathetic puppy, watching it happen. I didn't say a word. I didn't yell. I didn't flip the table. I didn't even let my face show how much it stung, how deep that knife twisted in my gut. Her friends were still laughing, their voices bouncing around the restaurant, and Doris just smirked, sipping the cocktail Noah had ordered for her like this was all some big joke. I could feel the heat creeping up my neck, the shame pressing down on me, but I locked it down. I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of seeing me break. The waiter hovered nearby, probably debating whether this mess was worth his tip. I caught his eye, gave him a tight smile, and said another drink. Please, my voice was steady, calm, like I was just another guy enjoying his night. He nodded and hurried off, leaving me there with Doris and her little circus inside, though my mind was racing. What the hell am I doing? Why am I still sitting here letting this happen? They carried on ordering appetizers, fancy little plates of shrimp and some cheesy bread thing, chatting like I wasn't even there. Doris barely glanced at me, too busy laughing at his dumb jokes or flipping her hair for the pink-haired girl's Instagram story. So I watched her, really watched her. And that's when it hit me. This wasn't love, not anymore. Maybe it never was. She had turned our anniversary into her stage, and I was just a prop. A sad, stupid prop she could mock to make herself look bigger. The waiter returned with my drink, whiskey on the rocks. I took a slow sip, letting the burn settle in my throat. At one point Doris turned to me, her tone half teasing, half bored. You okay, babe? I nodded. Yeah, fine. She went right back to ignoring me, and that's when I made my decision. I was done, not just with the night. With her, all of her? I waited for the right moment. They were distracted, arguing over who would get the last shrimp. I pushed my chair back and stood up. Be right back, I said, as casual as ever. Then I turned and walked toward the restroom sign. My heart pounded, but my steps stayed steady. I passed the bathroom door without a glance. Kept walking straight through the kitchen. A cook shot me a weird look, but I didn't stop out the back exit into the cool night air. I didn't look back. The street was quiet. Just the distant hum of cars. The soft buzz of the city. I pulled out my phone. Russell picked up on the second ring. Hey man, you good? His voice was groggy, like I'd woken him up. Pick me up in 10, I said, giving him the cross streets a block. Away from L, everything okay? He asked. I didn't bother explaining. Yeah, just come get me. Russell didn't argue. He never did when I sounded like that. I hung up and leaned against a brick wall, hands in my pockets, the whiskey still warm in my chest. I pulled up Doris's number on my phone. My thumb hovered over it for a second, thinking about all the times I had called her, waited for her, begged her to care. Then I hit block just like that. No big speech, no dramatic goodbye, just gone. A few minutes later, Russell beat up truck, rolled up, headlights cutting through the dark. I climbed in, slammed the door. He gave me a look, eyebrows raised. You gonna tell me what's up? He asked, pulling. Back onto the road, I stared out the window, watching the city lights blur past. Not yet. Russell nodded, turned up the radio, and kept driving. I didn't feel free. Not yet. Not with her words still echoing in my head, but I felt something else resolved, like I'd finally taken a step I should have taken years ago. Walking out of that restaurant wasn't loud. It wasn't messy, but it was final, a silent execution of everything we'd been. But I wasn't done. Not even close. Sitting in Russell's truck, my mind started spinning, piecing things together, all the money I'd sunk into her, all the lies I'd swallowed, all the way she had played me. I wasn't going to let it end with me slinking away, tail between my legs. She had humiliated me, sure, but I had. Years of her careless words, her broken promises stored up like ammunition. I didn't know exactly how I was going to do it yet, but I knew one thing: Doris Carter wasn't walking away from this Anka. She had built her little kingdom on my back, and I was about to burn it down quietly, carefully, completely. Russell dropped me off at my place, and I thanked him, promising I'd explain later. Inside, I flipped on the lights, sat on the couch, and stared at the wall. The night replayed in my head. Her laugh. Noah smirked, the pity in the waiter's eyes. But it didn't break me. It fueled me. She thought I was a puppy. Fine, this puppy was about to bite back that night after Russell dropped me off. I didn't sleep. I couldn't. My head was buzzing. Replaying Doris's laugh, that pathetic puppy jab, the way her friends cackled like I was nothing. I sat on my couch in the dark, the only light coming from my laptop screen, and I started digging. I wasn't just walking away this time, not quietly, not without. Consequences. I had spent 3 years propping her up, and now I was going to take it all apart. She had built her shiny little life on my money, my patience, my silence, and I was done letting her get away with it. I grabbed a beer from the fridge, cracked it open, and got to work. Checking everything, I still had access to every piece of her I could reach. This wasn't about shouting or fighting in the moment. This was about precision, about hitting her. Where it hurt, quiet, cold, where she'd never see it coming first, up that damn Mercedes she had begged me for. I had been stupid enough to co-sign the loan, even dumber to keep making the payments. When her stable job never materialized, I logged into my bank account, my fingers shaking slightly. As I pulled up the autopay settings there, it was $450. A month straight from my checking account to hers, keeping that car on the road. Not anymore. I called the bank's 24-hour line, sat through the mind-numbing hold music, and until a tired-sounding rep finally answered, "I need to report financial manipulation," I said, keeping my voice steady. I explained how I had been pressured into covering her loan, how she hadn't paid a single dime despite her promises. "I'm canceling the next transfer." The guy asked a few questions, typed some things, and told me it'd be flagged for review by morning. Her payment would bounce, and that car one step closer to repossession. I leaned back, took a swig of beer, and let the satisfaction settle in. She loved that thing, paraded it around like it proved she was somebody. Let's see how she liked it when the tow truck showed up next. I grabbed my phone and scrolled through years of her voice messages. I had saved them all, mostly out of laziness. Never got around to clearing my inbox. But now they were gold. Doris had this habit of venting long, rambling recordings where she trashed everyone in her life. I tapped play on one from last year, her sharp voice spilling through the speaker. "My boss is such an idiot, thinks he's hot because he's got a corner office. I could do his job better blindfolded than another." About her best friend Sabrina. "She's so pathetic, crying about her breakup like anyone cares. Get over it," and one about her parents dripping with disgust. Their whole embarrassing lives are just failure. After failure, never made a single smart move between them. I listened jaw tight, realizing just how blind I had been, how much I had let slide. She had sent me dozens of these over the years, probably thinking I'd never do anything with them. Well, she was wrong. I plugged my phone into my laptop, copied every file, and saved them in a folder labeled Doris's Truth. This was just the beginning. Next was her work email. She'd used my laptop a few times when hers crashed. And lucky for me, she'd never logged out. I clicked into her inbox, half expecting to be locked out by now. But there it was, everything. Most of it was the usual corporate nonsense, marketing pitches, meeting invites, and then I found the good stuff. She'd been using her company account for personal business. Some side hustle. She never told me about selling overpriced skincare junk to her friends. Work course, there were chat logs with a co-worker where she trashed their boss, calling him a spineless creep, bragging about slacking off. I took screenshots, my heart pounding as I imagined her face when this came back to bite her. I wasn't sure how I'd use it yet. Maybe an anonymous tip to HR, but it was mine now, and that was enough by morning. The first domino fell. My phone buzzed at 6 a.m. Monsieur Doris, calling from the number I'd already blocked. She must have realized the car payment didn't go through. I let it ring. A few moments later, a text popped up from an unknown number. "Babe, what's going on with the car?" "Call me." I deleted it without answering. The bank must have notified her by now. I could picture her panicking, pacing around her apartment, watching her perfect little world start to crack. I stood up, stretched, and glanced out the window as the gray dawn crept over the city. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. I had spent years letting her walk all over me. But now I had the upper hand, her car, her job, her precious image, and I was going to dismantle it piece by piece. Doris Carter's collapse had begun, and I was just getting started. I woke up to my phone buzzing like crazy. 69 missed calls, all from Doris, piling up since I crashed around 4 a.m. I barely slept, my head still spinning from the night before, but seeing those notifications that lit something up in me. She was freaking out, and I hadn't even done much yet. I rolled out of bed, grabbed a coffee, and sat at my kitchen table scrolling through the mess she'd left behind. Voicemails, texts from random numbers. She must have borrowed someone's phone after I blocked her, each one more desperate than the last, babe. What's happening with the car? Why aren't you answering this? Isn't funny. Call me? I didn't reply, not a word. I just sipped my coffee, letting her stew in it, knowing that every unanswered message was another crack in her perfect little bubble. She had humiliated me at La Rie, laughing in my face with her idiot friends. Now the fallout was beginning. The first thing I did was send one of those voice clips, the one where she called her boss a spineless creep, to an email found in her work inbox. It belonged to some coworker she'd crossed paths with before, but I made sure to accidentally copy her boss on it too. No name, no. Trace back to me. Just a simple forward with the subject line. Thought you should hear this by noon. My phone pinged with a text from her. What did you do? I just got fired. I could picture her wide-eyed yelling at her phone, maybe even throwing something across her apartment. She'd been on thin ice at that job anyway. Always late, always complaining. All I did was give her a little push, and I didn't feel bad, not even a little. She'd spent years treating people like dirt. Now her own words were catching up to her. I deleted her message and moved on next. I tackled her parents. They had always been kind to me, inviting me over for dinners, asking about my job, treating me like family. Doris didn't deserve them, not after the way she talked behind their backs. I found the voicemail where she called them embarrassing failures, attached it to a quick message, and sent it from a burner email. Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Carter, I think you should know what Doris really thinks. I didn't stick around to watch the explosion, but by 3 dahop, M. Another text from another unknown number. My parents won't even talk to me now. What's wrong with you? I could hear her voice in my head, shrill, panicked, and it felt good, like I was finally taking back the power she had stolen from me. Her parents were her safety net, the one she ran to when things got tough. Now that door was slamming shut. I tossed my phone onto the couch and kept going. The car was the final blow of the day. I had already canceled the payment, and the bank didn't waste time. She must have received the official notice, late fees piling up, repossession looming, because by late afternoon she was blowing up my phone again. The bank says they're taking the car. You can't do this to me. Then a follow-up, baby. Please, I need the car for work. Funny how she suddenly cared about work now that it was gone. I didn't answer. Instead, I called the bank just to double-check. The guy on the line confirmed it. One more missed payment, and the tow truck would be on its way. The car would be gone by the end of the week. That Mercedes was her pride and joy. The thing she flashed around to prove she was better than everyone else, and now it was slipping right through her fingers. I hung up, leaned back in my chair, and let out a long breath. 3 years of footing her bills, and this was how it ended. Doris begging me to fix what she had. Broken by nightfall, she was in full meltdown mode. The texts kept coming, a flood of them, each one more desperate than the last. What did you do, baby? Please, I was just joking at the restaurant. You're ruining my life over nothing. She was scrambling, trying every trick she knew. Anger, guilt, that fake sweetness she always used to pull me back in. I read them all one by one as my coffee sat untouched, going cold on the table. She thought she could charm her way out of this, like always, but not this time. I had heard her real voice, the one she used when she thought no one was listening, and I wasn't falling for the act anymore. I didn't respond, not once. Silence was my weapon now, and it was driving her crazy. I could almost see her pacing, crying, maybe screaming at her friends to help, but they wouldn't. They had laughed with her at my expense, but now that the tables had turned, they wouldn't lift a finger. She was alone, and I was making sure she felt it. By noon the next day, I was ready to cut the last threads tying me to Doris. I started with her stuff. Over the years, she had left so much at my place. Clothes, shoes, those designer bags she loved to show off. It was scattered everywhere. Little reminders that she had marked her territory. A silk scarf draped over the couch. A pair of heels kicked off by the door. A bottle of her overpriced perfume cluttering my bathroom sink. I used to think it was cute, like she belonged here now. It just made me angry. Every piece of it was proof of how much I had let her take over my life. I grabbed a handful of thick black garbage bags from under the sink, the kind meant for yard waste, and got to work. No careful folding, no neat packing, just grabbing and stuffing fueled by the anger in my chest, a leather purse worth more than my rent into the bag. A stack of those tight little dresses she wore to impress strangers crumpled up, tossed in. I didn't care anymore. She didn't deserve the respect I had given her for so long. I moved fast, room to room, my heart pounding as I cleared her out. Her makeup bag full of lipsticks and powders I had probably paid for plattered against a pair of sunglasses she had borrowed from a boutique and never returned under my bed. I found a box of old photos, her smiling, with people she had probably trashed behind their backs. I didn't even hesitate before tossing it into the pile. The bee filled up quick, heavy with all her junk. I dragged them to the front door, lining them up like I was evicting. Her ghost, no goodbyes, no explanations, just gone. I stood there for a moment, breathing hard, looking at the pile. 3 years of us reduced to trash, and it felt right. She had treated me like garbage. So why should her things get any better? I wiped my hands on my jeans, grabbed my keys, and loaded the bags into my truck. I knew exactly where they were going. The drive to the landfill was quiet, just the hum of the engine and the rattle of her life in the back. I didn't turn on the radio. I didn't need it. My mind was clear, sharper than it had been in years, like I'd finally snapped out of some long, stupid dream. The landfill was a few miles out of town, a sprawling wasteland of dirt and discarded junk. When I pulled up, the guy at the gate barely looked at me. $10, he grunted. I handed over the cash and nodded toward the bags in my truck. He waved me through without a second glance. I drove in, parking near a pile of busted furniture and worn-out tires. Climbing out, I grabbed the first bag and hurled it as far as I could. It hit the ground with a dull thud, splitting open slightly, her designer clothes spilling into the filth. Good. I reached for the next bag, then another, throwing them harder each time, fueled by everything she'd taken from me. A bottle of perfume rolled out of one, shattering against a rusted car door. The sickly sweet scent mixed with the stink of rod, a fitting end to the last traces of her in my life. By the time the last bag was gone, my arms ached. My shirt clung to my back with sweat, and I stood there, hands on my hips, staring at the mess I'd left behind. She was trash, and now so was everything that tied her to me by 6. That evening, my phone lit up with an unknown number. I let it ring. The voicemail came through. A minute later, I hit play. Doris's voice was raw, frantic. "Where's my stuff? I went by your place and it's all gone. What did you do?" She was crying, the panic thick in her voice, as if she couldn't believe I had actually followed through. I deleted the message without a second thought. She must have gone to my apartment while I was out, probably pounding on the door, expecting me to let her in like always. Not this time. I changed the locks that morning. I wasn't playing her games anymore. She called again, twice. I didn't answer. Her final text came through a few minutes later. "You're a monster." I read it. Let it sit for a second, then deleted it. A monster, maybe. But she made me one piece by piece, with every lie, every sneer, every moment she used me and laughed behind my back. I'd given her everything, my time, my money, my heart, and she'd thrown it all away. Now she was the one losing everything, and I felt no guilt. Within a week, Doris's whole world had crumbled, and I watched from a distance, feeling lighter with every piece that fell apart. No job, no car, no savings, no one left to turn to, and I had helped make sure of it. That morning, after I cleared out her things, my phone rang. Russell. His voice was measured, careful, like he was gauging my mood. "Hey man, Doris has been blowing up my phone. Says she's got nowhere to go. Wants me to talk to you." "What's going on?" I leaned against the kitchen counter, watching the coffee pot bubble away, and gave him the short version, what she'd done at Lay, how I'd walked out, how I'd finally cut her loose. He was quiet for a moment, then sighed. "Sheck, my sister." "You know," he said, "but Sheck been a mess for years. I told her she needs to deal with her own crap this time, that Was it no lecture, no guilt trip? Russell knew Doris better than anyone, and even he wasn't stepping in to save her. I thanked him, hung up, and poured my coffee, knowing another door had just shut in her face by then. Her job was long gone. That email I sent to her boss, her own words, calling him a spineless creep, had done the trick she spent the first day texting me, nonstop screaming through the phone that I'd ruined her. But after that silence, I figured she'd given up, too busy scrambling to care about a job she never liked anyway. Next was the car the bank didn't waste time by. Friday, I got the confirmation call the Mercedes had been repossessed. I could picture her standing on the curb watching some guy hook it up to a tow truck, yelling like it would change anything she loved, that car more than she'd ever loved me. Now it was gone, sitting in some lot waiting for someone else to drive it, and I didn't feel a shred of guilt. She'd leaned on me to help her keep it promised, to pay me back, never did let her figure out how to get around without it. As for her savings, non-existent, Doris always lived paycheck to paycheck, blowing everything on clothes trips, whatever made her look good online. I'd seen her bank app once, back when we shared takeout and late-night conversations, $12 in checking a maxed-out credit card. I used to cover her share of things, thinking she'd get it together eventually, but eventually never came. Now, with no job and no car, she had nothing. Her parents wouldn't bail her out either. Not after the voicemail I sent. Russell told me later they called her furious, demanding to know how she could say those things about them. She tried to explain, but they weren't buying it. They done with her. Russell said over a beer that weekend, told her she's on her own. I just nodded, staring at the bottle in my hand, feeling another weight lift. She burned every bridge, and I'd handed her the matches. Meanwhile, I was getting my own life back, step by step. I canceled every joint account, every subscription. She'd beg me to get the streaming service, the gym membership she never used, but I paid for, called my landlord, changed the locks for good, even rearranged my furniture just to make the place feel like mine again. I stopped checking my phone every 5 minutes, waiting for her calls, her texts. The silence was golden, no more begging, no more whining. Just me in my own space. I started sleeping better, eating better, even caught myself smiling. In the mirror. Not joy, not yet, but relief. Like I'd been carrying her on my back for years, and finally let her go. That Saturday, I went out with Russell. Just the two of us. We talked about football, work, some dumb movie we'd both seen. It felt normal, like I was a person. Again, not just Doris's doormat. She was crashing hard, and I wasn't lifting a finger to stop it. Russell said she'd been crashing on a friend's couch. Maybe Noah, that jerk from the restaurant, but even that wouldn't last. Her friends were the kind who stuck around when things were fun but disappeared the moment things got tough. She begged Russell to mediate, to fix things between us, but he shut her down. Cold. "You made your bed," he told her. I could have hugged him for that. Doris had nothing. No money, no car, no family, no me. I'd spent years keeping her afloat, and now she was sinking fast. That night, I sat on my couch in the quiet of my apartment and realized I didn't miss her, not even a little. She was falling. I was rising, and that was exactly how it should be. Months later, I was sitting at my kitchen table eating cereal and scrolling through my phone when an email from Doris popped up. The first time I'd heard from her since the dust had settled. Seeing her name in my inbox hit me like a jolt, heart surprise, part dread. I put the spoon down, wiped my hands on my jeans, and opened it. Not sure what to expect. The message was short, typed out in that careless way she always had, like she hadn't even bothered to. Proof-free. "I don't know why you're doing this to me. You're overreacting. I thought you loved me. I miss you." That was it. No apology, no real explanation, just her tossing out words like they could magically fix everything. I read it once. Then again, letting each line sink. In the kitchen was quiet. Just the hum of the fridge in the background as I sat there staring at the screen, feeling a strange mix of anger and nothing at all. Still didn't get it after everything, laughing at me. In that restaurant, leaning on me for years, losing it all. She still thought she could guilt me back into her life. I leaned back in my chair, ran a hand through my hair, and thought about where I was now. The apartment was mine again. Clean, simple. With no trace of her left, I gotten a raise a few weeks back. Nothing huge, but enough to feel good about. I was going out more, grabbing beers with Russell, catching games with the guys from the office. I wasn't spending my nights waiting for someone who was never going to show up. My bank account was mine too. No more bailing her out. No more watching my money disappear into her hands. I'd even picked up running something I'd always meant to do. Cold morning air. Against my face, feeling stronger. Everyday life wasn't perfect, but it was better. Way better. And now here she was, popping up like a ghost, trying to pull me back into her mess with a few whiny sentences. For a second, I thought about replying. I could have laid it all out. How she humiliated me at Leah. How I sat there while her friends laughed. How I spent years paying for her dreams. While she mocked me behind my back, I could have told her about the car, the job, her stuff rotting in a landfill, how I dismantled her life piece by piece. Because she'd pushed me too far. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, itching to type it all. To make her see what she'd done, but then I stopped. What was the point? She wouldn't listen. She never listened. She twisted around, cry about how I was the bad guy, how she was the real victim. I'd seen it before, those big eyes filling with tears, that shaky voice begging me to forgive her, and I wasn't falling for it again. She didn't deserve my words, my time, my anything. I'd given her enough already. So I deleted it, just like that. Highlighted the email, hit the trash button, watched it disappear from my inbox. No hesitation. No second thoughts. It felt good. Clean, like scrubbing a stain off the counter. I picked up my spoon, took another bite of cereal, and kept scrolling some dumb meme. Russell sent a news headline I didn't care about. Doris's message was gone, and I wasn't digging it back out. She could miss me all she wanted, but I didn't miss her. Not the real her. The one who showed up that night at the restaurant. Loud, cruel, careless. Maybe I'd missed the idea of her once back, when I thought she was someone worth loving. But that was over. I'd learned my lesson, and I wasn't unlearning it for her. I finished my breakfast, rinsed the bowl, and headed out for a run. The March air was crisp, the sky gray but brightening. My shoes hit the pavement in a steady rhythm. I thought about her email as I ran her last attempt, one final swing at getting me back. She didn't understand why. I'd done it fine. She didn't need to. I did it because she showed me who she really was, and I finally believed her. That line stuck with me, something I'd heard somewhere, maybe from Russell, maybe from an old movie, when someone shows you who they really are, believe them. The first time I hadn't, not for 3 years, but I did. Now I picked up my pace, my breath coming in little clouds, the weight of her fading with every step. She was the past, and I was moving forward. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.